Hola, ¿cómo está mi gente? Estoy aquí contigo para platicar de mi viaje a aprender español en muchas formas. Como puedes ver, no estoy un nativo, pero yo puedo hablar más o menos fluido. Y yo quiero enseñarte cómo he aprendido español. Hello, my people. It's Grant. I'm back with a different video for you today. We're going to switch up the topic just a little bit. I know that normally I talk about tech, I talk about IT certifications and how to get ahead in that world, but I thought to maybe bring you guys another topic that can help you grow. Bing! No, but seriously, over the last 8 months, I've had a lot of changes go on, so I haven't been producing a lot of content. We traveled to Panama, we traveled to Puerto Rico. I was able to finish up my master's at Western Governors University. More videos to come on the tech side, but I wanted to kind of explore content that I myself consume a lot of, which is language learning. Before we get started, if this content relates to your journey, or if you like content like this, or if you like just following the tech content, please like and subscribe. It surely does help the channel. I want to get back to making videos regularly for you all, but with no further ado, here we go. Well, ever since I was young, I've had some sort of attraction to the Latin culture. And so I always thought to myself, if I get the opportunity, I want to learn Spanish. Just like many of you all, I took 4 years in high school, which netted me about 0 habilidades. And, I knew a few words, though I would use Duolingo. But when it came to listening to Spanish content and being able to speak with the native, I saw it as almost impossible. I couldn't find a way to actually become fluent. I felt like studying, using Duolingo, all these things, they just never really worked for me. In March of 2023, we took a trip to Puerto Rico. And so we booked our trips about 4 months ahead of time. So during those 4 months, I ingratiated myself in the reggaeton music, and I tried to ingratiate myself in the Puerto Rican culture, the music, the food, to prepare myself. The vibe, the culture, the food is truly its own country. And this experience is what helped further ferment this thing in my mind that I was going to learn Spanish. We went to an area called Piñones, and I remember I didn't know how to say, what is the name of this, when I was going to order food, so I had to Google Translate it. But just having to Google Translate that, it allowed me to remember that word without having to try to forcefully remember it. Context, which will be a key topic that we talk about in language learning. But let's continue. We returned from Puerto Rico. Me and my wife, we both loved the trip. And so then we decided for our anniversary in January of 2024, so a few months later, we were going to go to Panama. But this for me gave me about 6 to 7 months ahead of time. We booked the trip in August. We were planning to go in January, to where I could just fully study the language. Now, here are the biggest takeaways from my journey of learning another language. Comprehensible input. If at any point you become serious about learning another language, this is a term that you should be familiar with, comprehensible input. I find that when most people try to study another language, they try to study it as if they're studying math, right? But that's not how we learn English. We just learned it from just the sheer repetition or the input that we received. We listened and we repeated what we listened to. And through context, we were able to really truly understand the meaning of what was being said. Now let's think back to when we were kids again. First, you learn words, mama, daddy. Then you learn phrases. Let's go outside. I'm hungry. Then you started speaking in complete sentences. Then you started being able to express yourself with some sort of fluidity. Then after you're fluent, 4 or 5 years old, you go to preschool, already knowing how to speak. It isn't until really the first grade where you learn grammar. So grammar is important, but grammar is not important to get started and begin learning. The most important thing is making sure that you have enough input. So your brain will simply recognize the patterns of a language, and you can begin to learn it without intentively trying to learn it. And this is what I found. Now, what worked for me, and again, this is what worked for me. Okay. And I'd like to mention that a large part of the language learning path is learning what works for you. You'll spend, if you become serious about this, you'll spend the first month to 2 months figuring out what ways work for you. But once you see some sort of progress, it is a feeling that I cannot describe. So let's talk about an actual game plan to becoming fluent in another language. I made this video about Spanish, but this could go for, I suppose, all languages. Start with an hour to 2 hours a day of comprehensible input. Website that I used primarily when I started out with Spanish, Dreaming Spanish. Now they have content available on YouTube, but if you go to their website, they have more content and you can actually filter it down. You can start at super beginner, then go to beginner, then intermediate, and then advanced. And I would spend at least an hour to 2 hours a day just listening to content. Now, again, you do not need to try to force yourself to remember. The goal should not be, oh, I need to learn this. Oh, you should just simply allow your brain to consume the content. And through context and through trusting and believing what I'm telling you in yourself, just know that over time, you will learn. Now, after you put in at least 50 to 100 hours of comprehensible input with Dreaming Spanish, you should have some sort of base vocabulary. Now, a lot of this is going to be passive vocabulary, but it will be made active. Now, if you want to start expanding your vocabulary, for me, the most effective way was reading. And for this, I also have another platform that I use. LingQ is a platform that was created by Steve Kaufman. He's a polyglot or a linguist who speaks over 20 languages. And so he found also that comprehensible is the most effective way to learn another language and to grow your vocabulary, reading being the most effective out of all of those ways. And so the LingQ platform for me has been amazing. There are books and articles that are imported into this platform, and as you read them, you can click on the word individually, and it gives you the definition of the word. Okay, and so when you open a book, right, all of your unknown words are blue. Okay, and what I did was I would read the same book 5 or 10 times. By the 5th to 6th time I read through that book, all of the blue words were converted over to now they were just white because I knew them. And I didn't have to force myself to try to remember them. I learned them through context and through the repetition. Now, let's say about 100 hours, if you're a working person, especially with kids, this is going to take you about 3 to 4 months to get, right? And then we're going to read LingQ for about another 2 months. At 6 months, you should be at the point where you have enough vocabulary to where you can start speaking with a native teacher. And at that point, I would encourage you to schedule lessons with a native teacher. And I'll have 3 linked below here that I've worked with that are fantastic teachers. You can't get better at speaking by just listening and reading, right? It will help you with your vocabulary and understanding these grammar concepts, but you can only really get better at speaking by speaking. I encourage you to hire a tutor. Again, I'll have the tutors link below here. I have the tutors link below here in the description. All 3 of them are amazing, but I use all 3 for specifically different reasons. RSL, I started with RSL to learn grammar concepts, which helped speed up my learning because you can understand a lot through context, but once you make those grammatical links, you truly understand what they're saying and why they say it in that way, and you can start to do the same thing yourself. And then I hired Alejandro just for speaking, so I could talk to him an hour or 2 hours a week and just be able to express myself and get comfortable with talking about complex things, forcing myself to think, and bringing that passive vocabulary and making it active. Now that we're at this level, we're at the 6-month mark or so, right? You're going to be at some level of fluency, okay? But the biggest and best thing is that you found something that works for you and you're seeing progress. So you're going to continue to wash and repeat this process until you can speak like a native. Now I'm going to drop a few clips in here of kind of where I was at when I started. And this is about 3 months. First video is about 3 months.
Yo veo un interview. How do you say interview? entrevista con un boricua y tú sabes Fat Joe, un artista de Estados Unidos, Fat Joe. No, yo noté que los latinos que nació en los Estados Unidos hablan un poco diferente de nativos de un país. Gente aquí tenemos, tienen ah, amigos de americanos, entonces todos los días ellos hablan en inglés y con su familia hablan en español, pero nativos todos los días hablan en español. ¿Sí?
And then this second video is going to be a level that I'm at kind of currently. Ese fin de semana, ¿no? O después de trabajar, hacía ejercicio porque no tuve tiempo hoy, porque yo estaba muy ocupado con todo. Y sí, hay días así, pero no es un problema. Necesito como cambiar mi como calendario, ¿no? Sí, un poco para hacer la misma cosa ahí. Pero yo comencé una nueva dieta y entonces yo siento un poco como sí, no hambre, porque de verdad estoy muy acostumbrado, pero los cambios de su cuerpo cuando comienza una dieta, ¿me entiendes? ¿Me entiendes? Es como sin mucha energía y no puedo enfocarme, sí, tanto bueno, pero creo que en el próximo semana será mejor, pero
La próxima semana.
La próxima semana será mejor, pero estoy arreglando mi dieta para tener un cuerpo perfecto cuando me voy a... Now, the best thing about this is when you discover a way to learn a language, you realize that this system can be washed and repeated to any language that you want. I can go learn French. And I know that it's going to take me less time to learn French because I'm not discovering what works best for me. But to go along with this, you're going to need a passion, right? And that passion can be developed over time. My passion came from the music. I simply love the reggaeton. I simply love Spanish reggae. I simply love it all. I love the food. I love the way that the language flows, and that passion allowed me to continue my learning. You're gonna have to find content that you like, and that's why it's so important to watch the comprehensible input and get to a level where you can watch advanced things. Because when you can get to a level where you can comprehend at an advanced level, you can watch whatever you want. You can watch DIY videos in Spanish, and that allows you to watch what you're already going to watch, but then also supplement that time for Spanish learning. Let's wrap this up. You need comprehensible input. For me, 100 to 200 hours. Then you can start reading and gain more vocabulary. Then once you get to a point where you feel like your vocabulary is sufficient and you feel like you have the urge to speak, hire a tutor to start studying grammatical concepts with. Once you get a solid understanding on grammar, then you can hire a tutor to have conversations with. What also will help this is if you book a trip. So we have our second trip booked to Panama in January of 2025, and I'm looking forward to going back to the city. And while we're at it, I have another channel where me and my wife travel, and we've covered some of our travels there. Our Panama video specifically. I'll have that linked below. But guys, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them here. Like I said, I want to get back to making content more regularly. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.